everyone. Welcome back to Dad Space, the podcast for dads by dads. I'm excited to have Lori Oakes on the podcast today. We're going to be talking about her story. She's got some great things that we can chat about that are going to help many dads, many relationships with your partners and all that great stuff. My cat is going to attack me any second. Relax. And we're going to take some swings in the batting cage maybe today too. And why not, right? Lori, welcome to Dad Space. Glad to have you here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited.
And people are like, batting cage, what's going on? So let's jump in there. You talked before we had record some things happening for you guys. You guys have like a batting cage setup thing. People come and you help them with all their baseball needs. So tell us a little bit more about your batting cage business and what you guys do.
Yeah, so I'm a former softball player. I played collegiately at Division II and University of Hawaii Hilo. And when I graduated, my husband also played baseball. And we kind of had the opportunity 24 years ago now to take over an existing batting cage training facility. And we do mostly one-on-one training with baseball and softball players for pitching and hitting, fielding, and all the things. We've had some of our students that have come through go to college, big, Division I, Division II, all the way down. And we have a couple kids that actually made it to the MLB as well. So it's fun to watch. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
It's exciting, but we're in a little transition period right now, which is we're moving our cages, which is a big ordeal because nets and turf and all the things have to be moved. So we're kind of in an upheaval.
But you've taken time out of your busyness to come and chat with us, which I'm really grateful for. Thank you for that. Tell everybody again where you are in this big world of ours.
So I'll just give you the real fast version of my story, I guess, why I'm sitting in this chair and was excited to kind of share with you guys. Is at 17, I planned my suicide. Obviously, I'm still here, so there was a reason for that. But from that, I dealt with a lot of up and down depression in my life. I kind of call it the roller coaster of like really good goods and really bad lows, and just kind of rode that up and down my entire life. And when I turned 40, I found out I was pregnant with my third child, which I have a 10-year gap in between my second and third child. So she was definitely God's plan. And I did not want to feel that same overwhelm and stress and depression that I could feel coming on while I was growing a tiny human in my body. So I sat down and I was like, why do I keep going through this cycle of ups and downs and just not knowing how to like ask for help, not knowing how to get better. And I looked at all the times that I had been at my lowest and with suicidal thoughts and all of those things, and figured out how every time I had gotten back up and gotten back to like things were really great in my life and, things were going good. And then I realized, well, it's not just the getting back up. It's why do I keep falling down? And I figured out all the things that I was doing to fall down. And I put together for myself a little system to help myself get through daily that mental negative chatter that I had, the feelings of depression, the feelings of overwhelm. And I started using them while I was pregnant and after I was pregnant. And then I started telling my friends and they were like, you need to tell people about this. And so I started doing that. And now I'm a life coach and I help people one-on-one with coaching. I've actually created a program. It's called the Amaze Yourself System. And it's a 12-week program that I walk people through to help them get rid of that negative self-talk, to get rid of, to be able to help themselves out of that hole, right? Because a lot of people, especially men, which is why I reached out to you to be on the show, is they're afraid to reach out for help because there is such a stigma around it. And even for myself, as even as a woman, like there's stigma around that too, and fear of reaching out. One of my biggest fears was that if I said some of the things that were going on in my head, I thought they would take my kids. Now, in hindsight, I look back at that and I think, well, that would never happen because I had the support system. My husband was, everything was there. Like my kids never would have been taken away. But that fear was so great that I didn't reach out because I was afraid of that happening. Right. And I can just imagine what some of the things going on in some of the men's head that are listening, the dads that are, trying to take care of financially for the family and trying to take care of, being a dad and showing up for the kids when they are so busy and so stressed and so overwhelmed, that this is a platform that I think really needs help in being able to either ask for help or something like this that you can walk yourself through to be able to feel better without anybody knowing, right? Because literally so many people in my life had no clue that I was ever depressed. Because I put on a face.
Yeah.
Like I showed up how I was supposed to in the world, and inside it didn't match. It was not good.
Was there anybody that did know what was going on behind the scenes, or were you able to keep it from everyone?
I mean, mostly from everyone. I mean, obviously, like, I think my parents kind of know, because they could know when I was just like in a bad mood or whatever. But no one really knew how deeply like depressed I was, or how like just not wanting to be here, right? Like my first thought when something would go wrong, my first thought was always like, well, if I wasn't here, that would be better. ...
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so no one really knew I was at that point. But I mean, they could tell that I sometimes wasn't like fully happy. I mean, I didn't walk around like bouncing off the walls, but I definitely put on whatever was supposed to show up in the world so that people didn't know.
So you're a really good actor then.
I guess I don't like it now, because then they're like, well, is she putting on a show or is she happy? And I'm like, no, I'm legitimately happy now. Legitimately in 5 years, I haven't had one suicidal thought or thought of, well, if I just wasn't here, that would be better. Like I always knew that there's a way to figure it out now, and there's a way to move forward, and there's a way to help, whether it's helping myself or it's asking for help and being able to ask for help, because for a very long time I couldn't ask for help. And so with this system, it helped me to realize that I do have people around me, and I do have friends, because sometimes we all think, oh, well, I don't have any friends. You do. You have friends. We just, we kind of put them off because our lives are so busy and crazy. And, it's not like we were in high school, we got to spend all the time together with our friends, right? So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think speaking from the guy's point of view too, like we want to provide for our family. We want to make sure everybody else is good. But that's that whole oxygen mask thing in the airplane type thing where we're not taking care of ourselves and we're trying to help everyone else with their masks. As then time arises, you need it, and we're the last to do so, and we suffer the consequences of not taking care of ourselves and taking time to actually put time for ourselves aside so that we can get better and find the resources and people out there that can help us. And we just think, I'm fine, I'll be good tomorrow. I'll be good tomorrow. We keep putting it off. Yeah. We're not getting better, and we need help. Yeah. So what was it for you then that kind of helped to see through the fog and make the changes that you needed to make to be a healthier version of you?
So, and that's one of the things that was really big as I sat down and I wrote down all the times that I was at my lowest, and I wrote down all the things and where I was at, and then how I started to get up and how I started to feel better. And one of the things that was prevalent in every single time of my life that I started to get better was I started focusing on me and only me. Like I had kids, but I still focused only on me. And as I focused on me, I was better for them. I didn't yell as much. I was more patient because I felt better. Right. And I think that's the biggest thing. People are like, well, what do you do? I'm like, I don't know. I help people feel better, because if we can feel a little bit better, we show up better. Right. If we feel better, then we want to feel even more better, right? Like we start this avalanche type of thing. So I really focus on, how do I feel better today? Like, how do I feel better in this moment right now? And sometimes it meant like going outside and taking a walk. Sometimes it meant literally just going outside and taking 5 breaths away from my children so that I didn't murder any of them. And right. Sometimes it meant like, I just needed to do laundry. Like that was a very big key for me, of like that I would put off laundry for a very long time until it would get so big. And then it was so overwhelming to me that I wouldn't want to do it at all. And that was a very big stressor in our life. And we don't realize how much the things around us are causing this stress too. So like, from the man's point of view, like in what I've seen and stuff with some of my clients and stuff, is the man comes home and sees something messy, right? Then it's stressful. And then he throws that stress back onto the wife of like, well, why didn't you clean this? And she's like, well, I've been doing this. And then it's this big cycle of now we're angry at each other.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Let me look at the situation. Let me take a step back. How do I feel right now? And what do I need to do to feel better? Like, do I need to just say, hey, we're all going out to dinner because we just need to all like come together and talk and like be a family in this moment? Or do I need to go pick up a load of laundry and put it in because she's been crazy busy, right? Do I need to just go give her a hug right now because we need to connect? Like whatever it is in that moment, right then, what do I need to do to feel better? Right? Yeah. And most of the time when we yell at each other, we feel worse. So that wasn't the thing, right? It wasn't the thing. And so it's learning how to like stop, like ask yourself in that moment, like, what do I need to do right now to feel better? And then go through that. And what I created was basically, this is the easiest way to explain it, is you have all the tools you need in your head. And obviously there's more tools you can learn, right? But you have all the tools you need personally for yourself to feel better. But your tools are like in a messy garage. Okay, so imagine your garage. The tools are literally everywhere.
Yep.
I said, hey, I need you to hang this picture for me. And you were like, all right. And you run out to the garage and you need to find a drywall anchor and a screw and a hammer and whatever. You run out and you're like, well, where is it? And you're searching and what should take you 5 minutes took you 30. Right. So that's frustrating, right? So what my system does is I help you to figure out what are your tools, and then we put them into your toolbox so that now when something arises that hang the picture thing, right? Or something that's overwhelming, you run out to the garage, you grab your toolbox, you run back inside, you hang the picture, and you put your toolbox back so that every time now when something arises, you're able to go to that toolbox very quickly, take what you need, and then feel better, right? Yeah. And so that's the premise basically around the system that helps you to like figure out what's going on and what do I need to do to feel better.
Okay, so what is the difference then between being self first and selfish? Because I'm feeling that if I'm being selfish, that's a bad thing. Like, well, look at you. It's all about you, blah, blah, blah. But we need that. So how do we be self first and putting ourselves first? How do we do that? And is it different from being selfish?
So I think let's just go back to the thing about where the dad comes home and he just feels like it's a mess and it's crazy and he starts to yell, right? That's being very selfish because he didn't ask how her day went. Yeah. Right. He didn't ask how the kids have been acting. He didn't ask, he doesn't even know that she hasn't been home all day because her friend down the street just found out she has cancer and she's been helping with her. He doesn't know any of that, right? So being selfish, coming in and just yelling about the things, that's selfish, right? Now, if he comes in and he says, oh my God, this place is crazy. Oh, I'm overwhelmed at this moment. I need to go outside for 5 minutes and go figure out what tool is it that I need to use right now, right? Walk outside, breathe. Okay, how am I going to go inside and reassess this situation and say, honey, are you okay? What's going on? Do I need to help you with something? Do we need to go out to eat? And having that conversation is different than coming in and being mad. And that's the difference between that taking care of himself first, whoa, I need to stop before I get angry, or just lashing out, right?
Yeah. So I think that's, again, as well, speaking for either partner that's working, coming home, and the other partner's at home, they're coming into the home after maybe they just got in trouble at work, or they've had a terrible commute, or they're not feeling well. They worked all day and they're exhausted. They have a migraine and they walk into the house and they're just hit with all of this stuff. They have their own things they're bringing home with them.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes both ways, right? Everybody's kind of have to be so thoughtful and thinking about, okay, when I get home, I know that my partner is exhausted and I'm exhausted. So we have an agreement that when I come home as the husband or the wife, that I walk through the door, that I get like 5 minutes of grace, where before I get hit with everything, Johnny didn't do his homework and Susie's got sniffles and there's spaghetti on the ceiling and I don't know how to get down, right? All of that, before I hit you with all that, take 5 minutes and just decompress, sit down, relax, and then we can be good.
Yeah.
That could be an agreement that you have within your home that just kind of softens the transition from outside to inside and from inside to outside, right? Something.
Yeah, and those agreements are so huge. And what happens though is we both on both sides, right? We bottle up like what's going on, trying to fix everything, right? Like if and I've gone through this in my marriage where we at one point were just basically living in the house together, like we were just roommates.
Yeah.
and it was just because I was so overwhelmed with work, with the kids, with everything that was going on in the house of trying to clean the house. And he was overwhelmed as well at work and, going through like the 2010 time when the economy was amazing, right? So both of us were just kind of trying to exist, and he's trying to make it work financially, and I'm trying to trying to clean the house, but it's like so overwhelming because I'm still bringing home all the work stuff. Is finally I was like, I just need you to when you get home to put in a load of laundry. And he would put it in the washer, and then I would put it in the dryer, and then however it got folded, most of the time it didn't, but whatever. But it got washed. And that was one thing that lifted this whole thing off of me. And, the next thing I talked to him, I was like, okay, I just need you to put the dishes away. I can wash the dishes, but for some reason it's hard for me to put them away. So he started putting dishes away, and that little tiny balance of hey, can you help me do this? But I never asked for help. I just was like, he's not helping, instead of saying, hey, you know what? I really need your help in this. And the minute we did that, we stopped being roommates, and it changed everything in our marriage as well. Not just the overwhelm and the stress, it also changed our relationship. So it's stopping and saying how can I help you feel better? And this will help me to feel better. So it's taking that time in the relationship to ask for those things that you need to make a deal on,
Okay, so Lori, I got dads listening to this. They're on their way home from work today. They're driving down the road, and they know that things aren't great at home and they could do better. What are a couple questions we can ask our partner when we get home to kind of do those things, come to those agreements, help with the laundry, do the thing? What are some questions we can ask our partner when we walk through the door that our partner is just dying for us to ask? Please ask me this question. I have a list for you. What can we do to make things better when we get home today?
So ask. That's the first thing. But that's the hard part, right? That's the hard how do I ask? You just ask. Just hey, what can I do for you today that would help out? That would be fine. But let me throw this at you. This is one of the things that I absolutely love. And it also is something that really opened my eyes and changed oh, okay, I see how I can be helpful to my husband as well, is to go out and get the 5 Love Languages book.
Yep.
And I know that it's not a man book that you guys want to run out and get, but literally read the book, and your wife will absolutely everything will change in your relationship. Because when you figure out what motivates her and what her love language is, right? Because some people if you bring home flowers, 100% they're yes, great, awesome. If you bring me home flowers, I'm oh, yeah, I mean, that's nice, but flowers are not my thing, right?
Yeah.
Some relationships, they need a hug, they need touching, and there's not enough of that, right? But you have to find out what your love language is. And so for me, I realized that keeping the floor, we have hardwood floors throughout the whole house, keeping the floor clean of dog hair in our bathroom and our closet area where he gets dressed, and he's going to have dog hair all over him because our dog just sheds everywhere, right? But when that space was clean, he's fine. When that space gets dirty, he's upset, and it stresses him out, and he's not happy. So what can I do? I can go make sure that one space in our house is always clean, because for him, that he's you're like the best wife. Like that's the thing that will make him, so acts of service for him to do for him are huge for him.
Yeah.
And so when you figure out your wife's love languages and you figure out what yours are, so that your wife can know like how to respond to you as well, that will change everything in your relationship.
Smart. Yeah. That's a great book. It's like, it probably should be mandatory for every relationship.
Right.
You've got to read this book before we can continue.
Yeah.
So before you even decide to do whatever you're going to do, you need to read this book. It's universal. And because again, like I could go put gas in the car for my wife when I bring the car home, and I'm like, hey, I put gas in the car. She's like, what, do you want an award for that? Like, I do that all the time.
You
right?
can fill up my car all the time. Right? Yes.
But for her, it's like, that's natural, it's normal. I do it all the time. She'd say it to me.
Yeah.
So like, you got to figure out that you might be investing all your time and effort in what you think is a demonstration of love. And to them, it's just, that's normal.
It's normal.
That's expected. Right. That's not extra. That's just you being a human. So what really catches my attention is if you do this over here instead. Yeah. That's my love language. So the more you know that, the better.
Yes. And that is so huge in knowing those things and being able to really connect. But that also is a decision, right? A decision. And that's what a lot of this is like, I want to decide today that I want to feel better. And what's the first step? Like, how can I feel better? How can I move forward? And it's finding those little things that you can do for yourself and for your relationships, right? That are going to help you to feel better. So.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, if you haven't bought that book or listened to the audiobook, then definitely go to the show notes and click on there and go get it. I don't know how you have not heard about this book yet. You need to go get that because it does give you a good foundation for your partner, for your relationships. You can also focus it on your kids too. There's a love language there as well. Yes. It applies all over the place. So definitely go grab a copy of that.
Definitely.
Excellent. So tell me the type of people that you actually work with, Lori. Like you said, you work with men, you work with women. Like who is your audience and how are you finding clients for your business?
So some of it is word of mouth. I through Facebook and those kind of things, but really it's just people that want to feel better. I do work with mostly moms. That's been my primary client. But I have worked with a few men that like didn't realize until we really got into working on like some of the things, how much it was going to affect them. And the reason I got to work with them, which was awesome, is I worked with an HR department for a large company, and they kind of got forced into it. But the coolest part was that the men in there really did the work and were like, dang, like this was so good for me because I didn't think of it that way. Or I thought I just had to, that's part of being a man, right? Like part of the things that I had to do. And they realized that they could break down some of those walls and the stigmas that were surrounding them of being a man, right? Like of the things that you're supposed to be doing. And so it was fun to really watch them transform. And from that, I've had referrals of like, oh yeah, you got to go talk to her, because most men aren't going to reach out, right? Most men are not going to say, I need to get a life coach, because then it looks like they're a failure, right? When, well, I need someone to help me to do the things that I'm supposed to already know how to do. Well, how are we supposed to know how to do it? Like we're all going through this life, like not knowing anything, right? We're literally learning as we go, whether we're parents or not parents, right? It doesn't matter. Everyone's learning as we go. And so that's the thing that is huge, is that literally this could be for everyone that just wants to feel better. It literally doesn't even matter. So
yeah, even if you feel like you're an expert in whatever, experts still need experts, just like a dentist needs a dentist. You can't do your own teeth. You can't, that's impossible. How are you going to take care of your own dental care? You got to go see a dentist, even if you are one, right? So you might think that you have it all figured out as a parent, as a partner, but sometimes working with somebody will help you to see things you don't see. Yeah. And you need that outside point of view.
Yeah, I love that dentist one. I'm going to use that from now. Being an athlete, obviously, like we need coaches, right? As an athletic coaches, even the guys that get to the major leagues. So one of my husband's students is in the MLB right now. He still comes in the off season and comes and hits with my husband, which is,
Wow.
like, why would he need to come do that? Well, because he still needs a coach. He still, needs someone to say, hey, like, this is how I can help you. Like, this would help you in your swing. So that's where this comes in, is like, no matter where you're at, like having a coach, having someone to help guide you, even just to like, hey, did you think about it this way? Hey, did you think about it this way? And then going, oh, wow, like, let me try that. Right. And whether it works or not, it's something, it just kind of gives you different perspective on what's going on in your life. Because sometimes we get tunnel vision of like, oh, this is how it is. And well, really, is that how it is? Or is that what you're making up in your mind? Because we have negative self-talk, right? That's walking us through that, oh, maybe my spouse doesn't love me anymore. Like, because we feel like we're pulling apart. Well, maybe you just need to get back on the same page and talk, and we need to walk through that. Like, really, are there signs of that? Or are you making that up in your head, which is making you push that person further away? Right. Yeah. So really getting into what negative self-talk we have and how we can look at things in a little bit different perspective. So it's huge.
I always get nervous when I hear friends talk about how silent their relationship is currently, where they're just not talking anymore. And like you said, they're like roommates. They used to be so talkative and so loving and so focused on the other person and what can I do for you? And now it just seems like we have our routine, we work, we come home, we take care of the kids, put them to bed, crash into bed, get up and do it again tomorrow. And you just really, you lose touch over time. And it's a slow creeping thing, that silence. And it's very disturbing and very scary when you realize how quiet the relationship has become.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I hope I haven't gone too far. Like, can I still save this relationship? And you can. It's take a lot of work.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts to relationships that have kind of gone silent? What do we do?
Yeah. And that was one of the things for me and my husband. We're kind of in that place for a little while. And for me, it's very hard to have a conversation, like to just speak directly, like, hey, this is what's going on. Because I feel like if I get something out and then I feel like he's coming back and I feel like I'm getting in trouble, then I shut down and I'm like, okay, well, I'm done.
Yeah. Defense.
Well, for me, the easiest thing for me to do is to write a letter. And so I literally wrote like an 8-page letter that said, hey, here's where we are. Here's what our kids are seeing. Like, is this what we want? Like, where are we going? Like, what do we need to do? I need help with laundry. I need help with dishes. Like, these were the things that I told him. And then we sat and he read it and I just waited and then we cried and we said, no, this is not what we want. Right. Like, and, but neither of us, like, until that moment where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, here, I'm going to write a letter. And at that point I was like, why did I have butterflies when we first met? Like, why did and one of the things in that letter was, I want to have the butterflies I had when we first got together. Mm-hmm. But the thing was, I thought about it. I was like, well, I thought about him all the time when we first got together. I wanted to see him all the time. I made an effort for him. Right. And I realized that I was no longer doing that. Like, I was just going through the day-to-day motions of like trying to just survive. And it started hey, he is cute. Like, oh my gosh. So now my kids, they hate it because I'm like, look at your dad over there. Isn't he so cute? And they're like, oh, mom, like, but for me now, I'm like, check him out. Right. Like, that's what I did when we first started dating. So now, like, I'm checking him out again. And that changes the whole thought process on how do I want the day to end with him?
Yeah.
Right? Like, where do I want to be? Instead of just like, oh, that's the end of the day. Like, okay, next day, like next day. So it changes the thought process, which also in turn changes his thought process, because now he sees me looking at him and he's like, hey, and then the kids get even more grossed out. Right
now. They're like, Mom, Dad, come on.
Right.
Come on.
And so,
right. Yeah.
But I also was like, well, what are we showing our kids that's okay for their relationships?
Interesting. Yes.
And so I started saying, like, like, not like, hey, we need to kiss in front of the kids, but like, we made it like something that we didn't stop. Like, we just do it now. Right. Of like,
Yeah.
No, the older ones are like, ew, and the little ones like romance. And so like it's the funniest thing. But it also is like
Yeah.
such a connection for us now,
Yeah.
right? Instead
Right.
of just, hi, bye, we came, going, gotta go, like whatever.
Yeah.
We make it a point.
Nice.
And so
I like that.
that's a part of it, of just what did you have before and how do you get back there, right? And it's obviously
Yeah.
gonna be different. We've gotten older, we've gotten kids, and we've gotten all the things, but there still has to be that like pursuit, right? That little bit of, well, yeah, look, he's still cute. Like
Right.
touching his
So
walk by,
it's
right?
not too late. It's not too late, Laurie, right? It's not
Yeah,
too late.
never.
We can still do this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely,
Can
definitely.
you take us back a little bit into your story though? Because you opened up with, feeling at one point at 17 that, maybe it's not worth you being here. And I'm just thinking, when I look at my kids, and they're older than that now, but I'm thinking, what if our kids are in their room by themselves and they're in their teens and we have no idea that they're battling like this, and being unaware is not an excuse, right? We need to be a part of our kids' lives. If you had somebody kind of crack the door open to your bedroom and come and sit on the bed beside you when you're 17, kind of things did you need to hear in that moment that would have refocused your attention and helped you to realize how important it is to have you here? Like, what kind of things could we have said sitting on the side of your bed?
I think one of the biggest things, and my son and I kind of joke about this one too now, but is that everything's figure outable. Like everything is figure outable. And that was the one big thing so one of the reasons that I had those thoughts at 17 was, I always felt like I had to be perfect for my parents. And that perfectionism, it was a self-perceived perfectionism, right? Because they were like, oh, it's fine. But I was like, no, it had to be like, it had to be perfect, is that my grades started to slip. And I mean, went from an A/B student to now I had a couple of D's, and like that wasn't okay in my house. Like I was going to die, right? Like this was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like they're going to take softball from me, which was my one outlet that I had. I'm going to be grounded at home. Like the summer's going to, like all the things, like all those things that we look at now as adults and go, it's not that big of a deal, right? But in the moment, it's very big, right?
It's your whole world in the moment.
And it's valid, right? It's very valid in the moment. So I think that everything is figure outable is like a huge, huge part of being able to move forward in anything that's going on, right? Like we talked about the marriages, it's figure outable, right? It's figuring out what the other person needs, what you need. With the kids, in that situation, I mean, I've had some ups and downs with my son, and the blessing in this for me of this program that it has completely changed my relationship with my kids.
Nice.
Because I was a yeller and a get mad right awayer, and I'm still working on that. But believe me, that doesn't just go away. Because I just had this conversation with my son not too long ago of like, well, why are you yelling at me? And I'm like, I'm not yelling at you. But then I realized that I kind of am, and I'm sorry, and then this and back and forth. But the cool part is that now he's able to say, why are you yelling at me? Instead of just stopping and just taking it, not having a side. And that now we can have conversations. And it all started with me and him having conversations that didn't feel good. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to feel like this when I talk to you. So I would leave the room and I would say, I'll be back. And I would go to my room and I would cry and I would journal and I would cry and I would ask for prayers to give me the right words to have a conversation with him. And I would come back and then we would have a conversation. And like, then he might get upset and I would say, well, this doesn't feel good. And I would stop him and we would have that conversation to the point now where like we're able to have conversations. And again, like I said, I'm not perfect. He's not perfect. We're not like, we're still have those things because for years, that's how we both grew up with each other, right? As a mom and as a son. But it's definitely better. And the door is way more open for him to speak up. And that's super huge for me. Like to say, okay, oh, you know what? You're right. Let me reassess here. Let's both get on a different page and let's figure out where we need to be together.
Nice. Wow. I think that's something that all of us can do, right? Dads, moms. I was telling you, I think when we had our pre-chat that like over 60% of my audience are female that listen to the Dad Space podcast. And I'm like, that is amazing to me that you're coming and finding value in this. And as much as we want to focus in on dads, there's people here that are listening from all different parts of parenthood, and they're coming here to get that information that they can apply today. So before we go, Lori, again, I want to give you an opportunity to promote and get all your information out there for everybody. But for the family members listening, the parents listening, they want to do better. They want to show up better in their home to their partners, but also to their kids. What are some closing thoughts that you have that kind of maybe something recent, something that we can share with them that can just kind of tie this all together for the listener, and some action items, something we can actually do tonight with our kids or with our partners? Kind of what are your closing thoughts as we kind of wrap up?
Yeah, well, so one of my biggest tools was journaling. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to journal. So make a list, call it, I don't care what you want to call it, right? And when we write them down, it's not in a way of like, oh, I'm a bad, I'm doing bad at this, I'm doing bad at this. It's not that. It's in a I want to be better way, right? Which is in a positive, like, how can I be better in this, right? Whether it's in your relationships with your kids or your spouse or yourself, right? And really allowing yourself to like dig deep into like, what do I want to feel better, right? Because in our head, we're like, well, I just want it to be better. Well, what does that mean for you, right? Like for some people, it means I need to get rid of stuff in my house because it's overwhelming me, right? And for some people, it's I need to have a relationship with my kids where I don't yell at them. For some people, it's I just want to connect better back with my partner. Like, it's some people, I literally just want to get the laundry done. Like, that's a never ending one, but right. I always come back to that because that's like literally one of my big keys. But journaling, list making, whatever you want to call it, write it down, like, and then start like really looking at how can I take the next step. And that's what we do basically in my one-on-one coaching is we sit down and we look at like, where do we need to get better? What feels really out of whack in our lives? We kind of do a chart basically of the wheel of life and kind of see where you're at. That's something I can send to all your listeners if they want to email me, you can, and reach out for that to just kind of give them an idea of like, where do I need to work on things, and to go from there. But that's where we start. We start with what is it that we need to feel better with, and how do we go about that? So, and that's checking on what the thoughts are about it, then figuring out what tool you need. And it's going to be less and less times that you have to use it. But when I first started using this program, it was like minute to minute, like right now in this minute, how do I feel better? Right now in this minute, how do I feel better? And then it becomes 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, and you feel better longer. And that's the key, is that instead of the roller coaster going all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom, is that now the roller coaster is a very little like up and down, and it's more like a kiddie ride now.
Nice. A little tamer.
Crazy roller coaster of life, right? So roller coasters always take my breath away on that first hill. I can't even yell. It's like, and then you get to the bottom of the hill. There it is. I can yell, which is like drives my wife crazy. She thinks that's hilarious. I can't even yell on a roller coaster. So there you go. That's my roller coaster story. I'm sticking to it. Thank you, Lori, for being part of Dad Space and sharing your thoughts. Again, where do we connect with you? What's the website? All that information as well. Yeah. So you can find me on my website is iamazeme.com. And you can sign up for a free consultation too. I do a free consult with you to see if this is something that's a fit for you. And I also give you some tools on that. Or I have a Facebook group. It's the Amaze Yourself community. You can find me on Facebook at Lori Vasquez Oaks, or on Instagram, I Amaze Me on Instagram. So
awesome.
Yeah, I'm putting together a group to start doing this actually in small group in the Facebook community as well. That we're looking at probably July for that. But being able to do this really on your own, mostly it's one-on-one coaching right now, but putting that program together to be able to do it fully at home by yourself on your own and really help you to walk through it.
So you're guaranteeing that if we work with you, you'll help us knock it out of the park, right?
Yes, you got it. You're
guaranteed.
Knocking it out.
Knocking it out of the park. No problem.
You feel like so much better. It's crazy. It's crazy to watch people grow through this program and see the change in how they start and how at the end they're so in charge of themselves and their lives, and they just feel good. Like you just feel better. So
we have to get out of the stands, step up to the plate, and take a swing, right?
Yes. Solid.
Yes.
Right there.
It's all part of that,
take
right?
That swing. Yep.
Practice, practice, practice. Nobody walks onto the field 10 seconds after making a decision to play professional baseball, right? You have to go and practice, spend some time in that batting cage. See what we're doing here?
Yeah.
You have to spend time, right?
Definitely.
Perfection.
Definitely. Even ourselves, it's a daily game. We got to practice every day. So.
Yeah. They will forget all the missed and strikes and strikeouts. They'll remember the home runs, though. So
yes.
Keep practicing, everyone. You're going to do some great stuff. So, and Lori's here to help you. Lori, thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was fun.
Hey, thanks for listening to Dad Space today. I'm so thankful that you were here for this episode. If you like the show, please let another dad know. Hey, that kind of rhymed. Anyways, share the episode out with somebody in your circle who would love Dad Space. That means so much to us here for our guests who donate their time to be on the show. And we just want to see this grow. So, again, another rhyme. Oh, wow. Anyhow, I think I need to write a song or something. Thank you for being here with Dad Space. And again, looking forward to the next episode. Look forward to having you here again with us. And if we can help you in any way, if you have a great guest idea for the show, a topic that you would love us to cover, we would love to do that here on Dad Space. So thanks for listening and thanks for being part of the community. And to you, Dad, thank you for listening and thank you for sharing Dad Space. Catch you on the next one. Take care.